All right, so welcome back to the channel, and this is going to be my cold introduction. Welcome back to the productivity quadrant. Valued associate. Before we begin, corporate leadership would like to remind you that today's compensation package is not a paycheck. It is a curated allowance designed to support your ongoing journey of personal resilience. Loved that intro. Thanks, ChatGPT. But before I get into my talking points, I want to talk about going to the dentist today. So I went to go get my cleaning because the last time I went to the dentist, that dentist was not really a dentist. He charged me $400 for a 2 hour x ray session. Today they did my x rays in less than 5 minutes. They cleaned my teeth, polished my teeth, told me that I needed to have a filling because I brushed my teeth too hard. And I'm coming back in January for that. But that's not what really stood out. One of the girls that works at my dentist is very cutesy Hispanic girl. I've known her for years working there, and today I hadn't seen her in a year because I just hadn't time to go to the dentist for the longest time. And I was looking for her, and I got a different girl. And she afterwards she told me she didn't see me on the calendar, or else she would have come over and taken me away from the girl that was helping me today with the doctor. Right, so you have the dental assistant, and then the dentist, the doctor. And she just came over and she said, "I didn't notice you." But at the end of it, we were looking at each other, and it was really weird because, again, we hadn't seen each other in a year. And that year, she really cleaned herself up. She lost a lot of weight. She got rid of the mustache, and she dyed her hair a lighter color. She looked like a completely different girl. Still, personality was there. When I said that I'd missed seeing her, she grabbed my hand, and then she took her other hand. She squeezed my hand with both of her hands. It's really sweet. Anyhow, I had to throw that out there just because it was a moment today that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Very rarely do you have a woman come up to you and grab your hand that's 25 years old. And with that said, let's get into our three corporate overlord talking points because I love making this style of video. And occasionally I have to steer ChatGPT towards this because it will build a script on anything today's building blocks where you don't get a wage, you get an allowance. And from that, it created this. Talking point number one. We proudly offer competitive allowances that reflect our commitment to employee development. Adult wages are expensive. Stickers and verbal praise cost nothing. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because I've seen it throughout my entire career as people at other corporations get paid in internal paper monopoly money that they can go spend at the company commissary. And you can buy things like ramen, stickers, maybe a $5 gift card to Starbucks. And that's their way of saying, thank you for coming back to work today. That's it. Oh, and don't forget your 9-cent raise. And then they wonder why people are miserable at work or high turnover is costing tens of thousands of dollars a year because people come in. They obviously don't want you to be comfortable or else they wouldn't be giving you an allowance. Remember, they want to treat you like you're 10 years old, but work you like you're a 50-year-old man who has a family and a mortgage and a bunch of bills. So they expect that sort of loyalty. But don't get it twisted. There is no loyalty. At the end of the day, your employee numbers on a spreadsheet. And when they decide that they can make more profit by getting rid of this little cell right here, they're going to do it. In fact, I made a short about this today, but today I was at the gym at an unusual time, and I saw a guy that got canned last week for reasons that I can't go into because, again, all my videos are based on true stories, but names and locations will always be changed to protect the guilty. So this guy got canned last week, and he's just looking at me like I was doing, I was on the Roman chair, and I was pulling myself up. I was doing, what was it? I was doing chin ups, and I like doing chin ups body weight chin-ups, and I'm lifting myself up, and I look down, and he's coming across the room at me, and all you could do is be like, just kind of turn, cover your face, like, and he just gave me the nod. It's like, what's up, millennial Steam? And I'm like, I had to watch you clean out your office last week. I don't want to see this. But there it was, in all its disgusting indignity. You can't get out of the way. It's like a deer in the headlights. You're like, oh, I don't want to see this. It's a train wreck. But it's right there. It's the reminder that just because these people aren't there anymore, it doesn't mean that they're not out here suffering. And that's what I think about all the time. Yesterday was a particularly hard day to see some things that I'd rather unsee. And it unsettles everyone to continually have to see this, especially the guy that's got to deal with the remnants, the ashes. Talking point number 2. Our workforce thrives best when focused on gratitude rather than on material expectations. Be grateful for the crumbs, proles. They pair well with the cultural values of the handbook. That was kind of an awkward talking point. But be focused on the gratitude. I've learned that over the years that if you're not the person that's given the little white box, that you should be grateful that you have one more day. Because that's all they want to grant you. It's just one more day. If you're not part of the system, you're part of the problem. And unfortunately, all humans have become part of the problem because they keep wanting things like money, like actual wages. The allowance and the Happy Meal aren't cutting it. The corporate pizza party isn't cutting it. And more people are turning around and asking one simple question. How am I supposed to do this? Today, I spent half an hour watching The Epic Economist, and he had one TikTok after another of showing people who bought homes who now regret it as the worst decision they've ever made in their lives. Homes can be a devastating purchase. Not only can you become house poor, but if you're not used to it, your home requires a lot of upkeep. You've got to clean the outside of it. You got to clean the inside of it. You got to buy furniture. You got to take care of it. And as one TikToker said, I had to move an hour from my work to live in this house by myself that I can't afford. That's where we are in present day society. We're buying the things we can't afford. The same thing can be said about your car, your auto loan. Your auto loan should be paid off in a year. There is no reason why you should be paying on a car for 5 years that isn't going to work in 5 years. I don't know how many people I've met that are so proud of their paid off car, and then something breaks and they got to shell out thousands. I met one girl at a salon last year who was driving like a 2000 Nissan Sentra that she had to put 4 transmissions into it since then. Not only was this such a terrible waste of money, but she can't afford to buy a new car, so she has to keep putting money into that piece of crap. And the worst part is she has a STEM degree. You know where I met her? At her part-time job. Because she can't make it on one paycheck. And that's exactly how I'm going to conclude this video. People aren't thriving out there. Having gratitude to the person that throws the crumbs in your cage every day doesn't make any sense to me. There needs to be a real reckoning from society and look at a system that isn't benefiting you in any conceivable way. You go to work, you put in your 40 hours. I just checked my bank account. Bank of America just sent me a kind little reminder. You've got no money in your account, millennial Steve. I've got $40 in my bank account until I get paid again. 40. And I thought about this while I was at the gym today. So in a 4-week pay cycle, right? We get paid twice every month, every other Friday. And so that means there are 20 work days in every single pay period for the month. So out of that time, for many of you, you should only be spending about 1.5 days per week to pay for housing. But for a lot of you, including myself, it's not 1.5 day of work per week to pay for housing. Sometimes it turns into two, sometimes it turns into three. And if you're really in the gutter, you're working 4 days a week just to cover the rent in a place that you would rather not live in that zip code that you never imagined yourself living, in an area that's too far away from your job to make it convenient. One of the biggest complaints I saw today on those TikTok videos was I couldn't afford a home where I work. And I hear this every day. When I worked at the university, there were people that were living out in Gold Canyon, commuting from out there into the university every day because that's the only place they could afford to buy a house. And remember, these people are college professors who spent years going to school, like me, who spent most of his adult life going to university hoping to get a good job. What did I get? Nothing but minimum wage, dead end jobs, one after another, after another, after another, times a lifetime. That's what we got, even as the overeducated people that we are. And now we're stuck in dead end jobs where I serve French fries all day long and I'm not going anywhere. The pay's never going to catch up with what I need. And forget about going somewhere else. If I go to Burger King across the street, guess what they're going to say? Sorry, we can't offer you more money. It's not part of the job. You walk across the street again to Walmart and you see literally skeletons of people that should have been in the ground 10 years ago, working the registers, not knowing where they really are. That's the hard look at the current system we have. And to think of having to work another 20 years and, and own nothing and be happy. The last thing, even Walmart said, they don't want people showing up to work that aren't happy. How do you find minimum wage workers that are happy? How do you have an employee come to work in a place that serves food when they're hungry? The ridiculous nature of all of these places believing that their workers actually care. In fact, today, there was one TikTok that I was looking at where the guy's like, can't they even care a little bit about doing a good job? And you look at him, it's like, well, when you're trying to build $1 billion business on the back of minimum wage, quality has a tendency to go south. This is something I heard for years when I worked at Walmart from the general manager. It's like, why won't anyone good apply for a job here? Because anyone good has the opportunity to make real money, to make a living. What you offer here and at every other despicable Death Star location, wherever Surf City or Pound Town you're at, it's the same thing. They look at you like you're broken. Your boss wants to walk up to you, hit you on the side of the head, and ask you why you're not working faster, or why you're not doing more, or why you're showing up with a pessimistic attitude and a look like you haven't eaten in 3 days. Because there is a good chance that that employee hasn't eaten. Why? You're just not making it. When you've got $50 in your bank account like I do until your next paycheck, you understand the misery of suffering all week for an unstable financial situation. Talking point number 3. Employee pay is calibrated to ensure external motivation remains strong and aspirational. That is, you should aspire to a second or third job. Why are you bothering to go to sleep, proles? Sleep is for rich people. Resting is for rich people. Good food is for rich people. Not worrying about whether or not you're going to get sick because you just sneezed a couple too many times today. That's what regular people are worried about right now. Can I afford to get sick? The answer is no. Can I afford to stop working 7 days a week? No. If you choose to slow down, life will run you over. It's not kind. It's not meant to be fair. It's designed to exploit every last resource in your pocket just to keep yourself alive. I make fun of this all the time. But even the air you breathe is going to start costing you money at some point. Because think of that. You've never really had a free drink of water in your life. That tap water isn't free. That glass of water that you take from a restaurant, you pay for. Every resource you need to keep yourself alive has to be paid with blood money, with your blood, sweat, and whatever else comes out of your rear end when you've got little steam coming out of your ears. Why do you think I call millennial steam millennial steam? The steam is it's coming out of your ears as you work yourself into oblivion for an unlivable wage. Your allowance isn't keeping you going. And we all know this. We all know that things need to change. When I asked ChatGPT this morning about how much do you really need to survive in an economy where basic rent is $2,000 a month, ChatGPT didn't hold back. $96,000 is what it came back, so that you can put $2,000 into your landlord and then have the other $6,000 save, invest, and prepare for retirement. Oh yeah, and buy some food occasionally. That's how expensive life has gotten. When you're getting paid $300 or $400 a week, the equation makes absolutely no sense. All right, so let's get into today's conclusion. So that includes today's guided orientation into the allowance economy. Remember, while your wages may resemble childhood pocket change, corporate assures you that the experience of stretching those dollars builds character, loyalty, and an unbreakable dependence on our continued approval. That is a scary, scary outro. I don't know where to begin to even comment on that, other than the allowance economy is what we've allowed it to become. There should have never been something called the minimum wage. The minimum wage is a simple, easy equation to calculate what every single man, child, and woman needs. 25% of whatever the landlord wants to take you for every month. That's where you start wages at. It doesn't matter what the little paper says on it at the end of the week. It's 25%. 1 day a week you work to pay for your shelter. The rest of the time, you're preparing for the future in unforeseen circumstances like getting sick, having to take a day off, having to do something that you weren't planning on, having to deal with a car problem. Your Promobile, for most of you, you're just waiting for it to blow up into a million pieces. That's the car maintenance that I see for people who don't have money for food. How are you going to buy tires for a car when you can't even afford ramen? And your Promobile, well, it's a ticking time bomb. The Promobile is bought cheap, and it gets cheaper every single day you take it from point A to point B. It's never going to get any better. It's the way the system functions. It's the way you feel the economic flames tickling your hiney every morning when you get up to work and you can't get up to work. Because you're tired, you're exhausted, you're not sleeping at night because you're wondering all the terrible things that can happen to you very easily. And just like that guy I had to see at the gym, looking at someone in the eyes where you know that their trajectory is heading straight down. This guy doesn't have a chance of getting another job. The guy should have been gone a long time ago. The job economy shouldn't see 60, 70, or 80-year-old men in it anymore. It's depressing. It's a constant reminder that all of us are heading that way. What money do I have for retirement when I have nothing left? And that's just the way they've normalized this to some great extent, where we all just keep putting our heads down. And you can't keep putting your head down and hoping that the problem goes away. Eventually, you're going to have to deal with it, or else you're going to find yourself in pro-retirement, face down in the mud with nothing left to give, and society makes certain that you understand that you're no longer welcome here if you can't be exploited.